Ireland, 1919. A land scarred by occupation, rebellion and resistance. Just 3 years after the Easter Rising, revolution once again swept across the island. From the rugged Comeraghs to the shorelines of Dungarvan, a band of determined men carried the torch of freedom. This is the story of the Waterford Flying Column, a tale of courage, sacrifice and guerrilla warfare in the heart of Munster. The story of Waterford's Flying Column begins years before the first ambush, long before gunfire echoed through the valleys. In 1913, inspired by nationalist sentiment and the formation of the Irish Volunteers in Dublin, men across the county of Waterford began drilling. From Old Parish to Dungarvan, they gathered in churchyards, barns and fields, armed with wooden rifles and dreams of Irish freedom. In Dungarvan, the backbone of the volunteer company included civic leaders like Dan Fraher, a local GAA legend, J.A. Lynch, editor of the Dungarvan Observer, and George Lennon, the young son of the local gaswork owner. In Old Parish, Paddy Leahy, a British Army veteran, trained men with discipline and dedication. When the Irish Volunteers split after the outbreak of World War I, many companies in Waterford disbanded, but the spirit of the resistance lingered. Then, in 1916, everything changed. Though Waterford saw little direct fighting during the Easter Rising, the shockwaves were felt deeply. During Easter week, George Lennon and others quietly took over the post office and stopped the train in search of arms. Their mission failed, but their resolve hardened. By 1917, Sinn Féin was gaining ground. Huge rallies in Dungarvan Square saw Count Plunkett, Harry Boland and George Plunkett galvanise the people. The DC's battalion was formally established in 1918. The creation of 4 battalions in Dungarvan, Lismore, Kilrasantly and Ardmore Old Parish. About 600 men stood ready. Quartermaster Joe Wise took to the seas, smuggling arms from Germany and America. Others raided Coast Guard stations and big houses. Bayonets were forged in rural forges. Swiss-born jeweller Oscar Bowman lent his expertise in the crafting of ammunition. In January 1919, the first shots of the War of Independence rang out in Solohead, County Tipperary. But Waterford would not remain quiet for long. A year later, in 1920, the Waterford Brigade moved to a war footing, attacks on RIC barracks, and they also began patrolling their territories. Their goals: undermine morale, seize arms, and force police to abandon rural outposts. The murder of volunteer Michael Walsh in Ring by the RIC fueled further action. Soon, the Ardmore barracks was attacked. Patrols were disarmed, and the police forced to abandon dozens of barracks. Captain King, a particularly aggressive inspector, threatened James Manfield's mother in Old Parish. In retaliation, volunteers dragged his car to his door and set it ablaze. Soon after, he requested a transfer. Customs offices were raided, documents burned. The British administrative system was thrown into disarray. By the mid-1920s, the Waterford Brigade formed its active service unit, the Flying Column. These full-time guerrilla fighters moved through the Comeraghs, the Nire Valley, the Drums, and the Colligan Woods. George Lennon led them, drilled regularly by ex-British Army man Sean Reardon, consisting of volunteers throughout Waterford, South Tipperary and East Cork. They were well known by their trench coats, bandoliers and revolvers. Dan Breen once said you could always identify a column man by the razor and toothbrush standing upright in his breast pocket. Cleanliness and discipline were essential. Living on the run, they relied on safe houses, the Mansfields of Crowbally, the Powers of Glen and Gary Duff, the Walshes of Ballyduff, amongst others. Dispatches moved through clever channels, including messages hidden in dried cow dung. In November 1920, the column struck gold at Pilltown. After attacking the Ardmore RIC barracks as a decoy, they ambushed a military lorry sent by Youghal. With restraint and precision, they killed 2, wounded 6, and captured 26 rifles, revolvers and explosives. The British were disarmed and sent back, wounded but alive. Not a single IRA man was lost. Weapons were transported by Eddie Spratt's Grey Ghost and stored in Villarstown. This ambush confirmed that Waterford's fighters were amongst the best trained in the country. In March 1921, the column ambushed British forces at the Burgery, near Dungarvan. What began as a textbook attack spiraled into chaos. IRA men captured Captain Thomas and an RIC sergeant. One prisoner was executed. The others escaped in the confusion. In the aftermath, volunteers Pat Keating and John Fitzgerald were killed during a reconnaissance mission. The British retaliated with fury. Homes in Abbeyside and Dungarvan were burnt. Furniture smashed. Families terrorised. Civilians were left homeless. Even children and livestock were not spared. Yet, the local population held firm in their support of the Flying Column. The Flying Column found comfort in the fate of the people. Monks at Mount Melleray Abbey heard confessions and shared meals. Family rosaries were often led by column men, far from anti-clerical radicals. These fighters balanced revolutionary zeal with deep-rooted Catholic values. Throughout 1920 and 1921, ambushes continued. At Lisgarrow, Kilmacthomas, Stradvalley, Doonhill and more. A patrol disarmed at Youghal Bridge caused the British to halt road traffic completely. The regular mail service collapsed. British authorities resorted to dropping mail by aeroplane into Dungarvan Castle. British military, RIC and auxiliaries became demoralised. One by one, rural barracks were abandoned and destroyed. Finally, in 1921, a truce was declared, and by March 1922, British forces evacuated Dungarvan Castle, a symbol of English rule for over 750 years. The IRA raised the tricolour, but peace was fleeting. The signing of the Anglo-Irish Treaty in December 1921 split the movement. Old comrades found themselves on opposite sides. Dungarvan saw celebration and sorrow. The Flying Column, the heroes of 1920, would face another war, the Irish Civil War. They fought with rifles and revolvers, with courage and conviction, with dirt under their nails and prayers on their lips. The Flying Column of Waterford didn't seek glory. They sought a republic. Their deeds echo still in the valleys they once patrolled. Their story is Ireland's story.